Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text 20. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti samabhihito mahabhagavato Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guror Anushasanam Laghutayavanata Shirodharo Badham iti Sabahumanam Uvaha. Shri Shukaha Uvacha. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Iti, thus, Samabhihitaha, completely instructed, Mahabhagavataha, the great devotee, Bhagavataha, of the most powerful Lord Brahma, Tribhuvana, of the three worlds, Guroh, the spiritual master, Anushasanam, the order, Atmanaha, of himself, Laghutaya, because of inferiority, Avanata, bowed down, Shirodharaha, his head, Badham, yes sir, Iti, thus, Sabahumanam, with great respect, Uvaha, carried out. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Shri Shukadeva Goswami continued, after thus being fully instructed by Lord Brahma, who is the spiritual master of the three worlds, Priyavrata, his own position being inferior, offered obeisances, accepted the order and carried it out with great respect. Please repeat. Shri Shukadeva Goswami continued, after thus being fully instructed by Lord Brahma, who is the spiritual master of the three worlds, Priyavrata, his own position being inferior, offered obeisances, accepted the order, and carried it out with great respect. Purport. Sri Priyavrata was the grandson of Lord Brahma. Therefore, according to social etiquette, his position was inferior. It is the duty of the inferior to carry out the order of the superior with great respect. Priyavrata therefore immediately said, yes sir, I shall carry out your order. Priyavrata is described as a Mahabhagavata, a great devotee. The duty of a great devotee is to carry out the order of the spiritual master or the spiritual master of the spiritual master in the Parampara system. As described in the Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Evam Parampara Praptam, one has to receive the instructions of the Supreme Lord through the disciplic chain of spiritual masters. A devotee of the Lord always considers himself a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyalila 13.18. Dāsa dāsa anudāsa. Om ajnanatimirandhasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam sthapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamahyam dadati swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशीय अद्वैतगदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. This is a very important verse. Very important words are there in this verse. Brahma is not only the grandfather of Priyavrata but also Tribhuvana Guru. He is the spiritual master of the three worlds, and we are also coming in that sampradaya. So he is not ordinary person. And also Priyavrata is also Mahabhagavat. Iti samabhihito Mahabhagavato. Samabhihito, abhihitaha means instruction, and samabhihitaha, this prefix sam, is added when there is a completeness. Like magnaha means immersed. Sammagnaha or mohita means illusioned. Sammohita means completely illusioned, like that. Sam means, the prefix sam means completeness. Purnaha, sampurnaha, like that. So samabhihita means completely instructed. So the duty of the spiritual master is to completely instruct the disciple in all facets or spiritual knowledge from all angles of vision. And this is also explained in this verse. I think 41. 4:28-41. साक्षात् भगवतोक्तेन गुरुणा हरिणा नृप विशुद्धज्ञानदीपेन स्फुरता विश्वतो मुखम्. In this way, King Malayadhvaja attained perfect knowledge because in his pure state he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. Just like Krishna, he instructed Arjuna completely. And when we say completely, they can always, the instruction can be infinite. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you see, okay, 63 and 64, let's see. You see, iti te jnanam akhyātam guhyāt guhyataram maya vimrishyayita dasheshena yathechhasi tatha kuru. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. So he is complete. Of course, next verse he also says, Sarva guhyatamam bhuyah shrunume paramam vachaha ishtosi me dridhamiti tato vakshyami te hitam. So the most, because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. And the next two verses are that. They're always manmana bhava mad bhakto and also sarvadharman parityajya. So complete surrender and always think of Krishna, become his devotee, offer obeisances, and what is that? Manmana bhava mad bhakto, madhyaji, worship me. So this is the most confidential instruction. Now, although he said it is the most confidential instruction, to Uddhava he spoke even more confidential. And of course, his pastimes with the gopis are the most confidential of all pastimes and devotional service that a devotee can engage in is the Ras Leela. So there is always, every time he is saying most confidential, but then he, instructed more confidential things sometimes. So it is not that at this point in Bhagavad Gita, his instruction is not complete. No. He is complete, and in Bhagavatam more complete, Chaitanya Charitamrita most complete. But it is always complete. Like perfect, more perfect, most perfect. But it is always perfect. Krishna, that is explained in the Nectar of Devotion, that in his childhood pastimes, I think, is that the? No. Vrindavan, Mathura and Dwarka. In Dwarka he is perfect. In Mathura he is more perfect. In Vrindavan he is most perfect. So, but he is always perfect. So it is never lack. There is never a lack in his, or a deficiency in his glories. Similarly, the instructions of the spiritual master are always complete. According to the time, place and circumstances, it is complete. Like Ramayana is complete in 25,000 verses, but in the Brahmaloka it is 1 billion verses. So that is also complete. Same Ramayana. Mahabharata is 100,000 verses, but in the heavenly planets, Shukadeva Goswami and even another sage also, they spoke 1.6 million verses of Mahabharata in the heavenly planets. And as we go higher and higher, the level of understanding, the comprehension of the instruction becomes more and more, because the intelligence and the devotion is much more there. And just like even in this world, in this planet, we can see there are many religious, many so-called religious systems. There are many religious systems in different parts of the world. Most of them are rudimentary, very elementary. Some commandments, some rules, and little information about God, not very extensive. In fact, not many people know actually how God even looks like. Most of them are impersonal. Yeah. Some hint is given, like for example in the Bible, man is made in the image of God. Now that is rudimentary, elementary. But we know exactly how Krishna's form is. But at that point, at that level, to that kind of class of people, it is complete. Because that much they can comprehend. So according to the level of comprehension of the recipient, spiritual instruction is given, Desha Kala Patra. According to Desha Kala Patra, time, place and circumstances, and the recipient. But of course, our Vedic literature has much more detailed information about everything. On the earth, on this planet, the Sanatana Dharma as we know it has the most extensive information about God and the instruction on how to conduct our life in great detail. The Varnashram system, so much detail is there. So, that is how much we can understand as human beings. Now the heavenly planets, they have higher intelligence and they have higher powers and they have higher levels of comprehension, and therefore the instruction, is more expanded there. So because we Kali Yuga are very foolish people, so iti shodasakam namnam kali kalmasha nashanam natah parataropaya sarvavedeshu drishyate Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this knowledge is condensed so much that is only one verse. 16 words summarizes the entire Vedic knowledge. So that is complete. So it is always complete. But according to the level of comprehension of the disciple. So, iti samabhihito, Lord Brahma completely instructed Priyavrata as much as you could understand and to convince him enough. So, samabhita means It should be to convince the person to take up the order. Just like after the entire Bhagavad Gita was spoken, Krishna said, Yathechasi tatha kuru. Do as you wish to do. Then what did Arjuna say? How did actually Bhagavad Gita finish? Karishye vachanam tava. Nashtamoha smritir labdha tvat prasadan mayachyuta. Sthitosmi gata sandeha. Karishye vachanam tava. In fact, Prabhupada wrote a poem, a very long poem called Vrindavane Bhajan. 108 verses, divided into 27 sections. And in that, in one of the sections, he says, Karishye vachanam tava iti ei mantra siddhi. The perfection of all mantras is Karishye vachanam tava. Because the order, the acceptance of the order of the spiritual master is the perfection of spiritual life. We want to be with Krishna and all this, but we cannot have any access to Krishna without the order, without following the order of the spiritual master. Karishye vachanam tava is therefore, that is called Sharanagati. Sharanagati means surrendering to Krishna means, oh, I'll leave everything to Krishna and let him do everything, I'll just sit down and wait. That is not surrender. Many people think that is surrender. Oh, let me leave it to Krishna. Leave it to Krishna is not surrender. Surrender means what? There are 6 aspects. Anukulyasa sankalpaha. That means accepting everything that is favorable to Krishna consciousness. That means whatever Krishna says, even if I personally don't like it, I have to accept it. I have to do it. Like Arjuna did not want to fight with his relatives. But Krishna said, you do it. And he said, Karishye vachanam tava. I will do it. Or pratikulyasa varjanam. Anything that is unfavorable to Krishna consciousness, let me leave it. We should leave it. Even if I personally like it. If Krishna does not like it, or the spiritual master says, no, don't do it, I should leave it. Pratikulyasa varjanam. Rakshishyati iti vishvasa, next. To have full faith that Krishna will protect me. Because when we give up everything, we may have a sense of lack of security. We have a sense of security in a fallible fortress. What is that? Second canto, first chapter. Iti, what is that? No. 214. Dehapatya kalatradishu atmasainyeshu asatsvapi tesham pramatto nidhanam pashyannapi na pashyati. Persons devoid of Atma-tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to fallible soldiers like the body, children and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. So we repose a sense of security in this, our family, society, insurance, bank balance. So we have to leave that and have full faith in Krishna that He will protect me. Not only materially, that oh, how will I eat tomorrow? Not only in that aspect, but even in my spiritual life. Sometimes even the body may be destroyed in the course of devotional service. Like Haridas Thakur was beaten, Prahlad Maharaj was tortured, Jesus Christ was crucified. They did not complain, why Krishna, why you did not protect me? No. Jesus even was saying, please forgive them, they do not know what they are doing. Forgive those who are crucifying me. He did not complain. He asked for forgiveness for them. Haridas Thakur also same thing. Khanda khanda hoy deho jai jadi pran tabu ami vadane na chhadi harinam. Even if my body is cut to pieces, I will not leave this chanting of the Hari name, holy name, Harinam. What is that next? E sab jivere koroho prasad. He is praying, Haridas Thakur is praying, E sab jivere koroho prasad. Mor droha na ho sabara aparad. So they have not offended me, so please show mercy upon them. Exactly the same as Jesus Christ. So that is Vaishnav. So why, if Krishna seemingly did not protect, and a person even dies sometimes, then why? How come Rakshishati iti Vishwaso? How can I have faith that Krishna will protect? So he will protect our spiritual life. Our body one day will die. Oh, Rakshishati iti Vishwaso. My body will forever stay. No. That is a false hope. To understand what is Rakshishati, we have to understand properly. Our soul, because neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even if we do a little bit of devotional service, Krishna notices and he will never forget. And therefore, that little advancement is saved. Save the document before proceeding. Like, when Excel, you are doing something and you have to save it. Otherwise, But in Google Sheets, you can go on doing whatever you want, automatically saved. Like that. Whatever you do in devotional service is automatically saved. You don't even have to manually save it. So, that is because there is Krishna's benediction. That is Krishna's mercy. Rakshishati iti Vishwasa. You have to be completely faithful in the protection of Krishna. That is next is Goptritve Varnam Tatha, to accept him as our guardian and master. And in this respect, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in that book of Sharanagati, I think last week we sang that song, Sarvasva Tomar, Charane Sampiya, Podinu Tumara Ghare, Tumi to Thakur Tumara Kukur. So you are my master, I am your dog. So dog is always maintained by the master, he is the guardian, and the dog himself does duty. He is not that only the Lord is guardian and I will just do whatever nonsense I want and Lord will guard me. No. I am the guard of the Lord. Like a dog. Grihapalaka. Grihapalaka means dog. So, Goptritve Varnam Tatha, to accept the Lord as one's guardian and master. That means I am a servant, dog. Then Atmanikshepa, full self-surrender. That means body, mind and words, everything in Krishna's service. And this verse actually signifies that. Kayena vacha manasendriyairva buddhyatmana va nusrita svabhavat karoti yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayetat. In accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme, thinking, this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayana. Sarvalabdharpanena cha, in another place, 7:30 Bhagavatam. So, everything we have to offer to Krishna. Atmanikshepa. No reservations. This is mine, this is Krishna's. No. Everything is Krishna. Sarvasva Tomar. What is that? Manasa deho geho jo kichu more arpilu tuwa pade nand kishore. Manasa, mind, deha, body, geha, house, that means wife, children, everything, money. Jo kichu more, whatever is mine, arpilu tuwa pade nand kishore. I will offer at your lotus feet, Krishna. It is all yours, not mine. So, that is Atmanikshepa. Whether in Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas or Brahmachari, one can be Atmanikshepa if one has this mentality. But if one has sense gratification mentality, even in Sannyas, he is not in this Atmanikshepa. Then Karpanya, humility, being very humble. That means not ever thinking that I am eligible for Krishna's mercy. And always being dependent on the spiritual master, on Krishna. Like this verse. Na prema shravanadi bhaktirapi va yogottha va vaishnavo jnanam va shubha karma va kiyadaho sajjatirapyasti va hinarthadhika sadhake tvai tatha pyachedya moola sati he gopi jana vallabha vyathayate ha ha madashaiva mam. O my Lord, I do not have any love for you, nor am I qualified for discharging devotional service by chanting and hearing, nor do I possess the mystic power of a Vaishnava, knowledge or pious activities, nor do I belong to a very high caste family. On the whole, I do not possess anything. Still, O beloved of the gopis, because you bestow your mercy upon the most fallen, I have an unbreakable hope that is constantly in my heart. That hope is always giving me pain. So this is humility. Not ever thinking that we are eligible for Krishna's mercy. And to never be proud of one's devotional service. What is that? 11th canto, 11:40. Aparikirtanam. What is that? Kritasya Parikirtanam, yes, this is the one. Kritasya Parikirtanam means never to glorify one's devotional service. If we are engaged in devotional service, we have to be grateful for the opportunity by the mercy of the devotees. And it is only possible because of the mercy of devotees. Because the devotees have struggled hard and given us facility, now we have chance to execute devotional service. So we have to be grateful rather than thinking that, oh, I am doing excellent service, I am a huge devotee, massive. I am a big time. That is nonsense, utter rubbish. We should never be proud of what we are doing in devotional service, never. Because then Krishna knows how to. Gopis were proud. In the Raslila, gopis were proud. Oh, we are the most fortunate. Even the heavenly damsels don't have the opportunity to dance with Krishna, but we have. Really? Krishna disappeared like that. Krishna does not like it. What to speak, even the gopis were not spared. Kritasya Parikirtanam, one's devotional activity is not advertising. There was one Back to Godhead magazine, and Guru, so-called, ISKCON Guru, was sitting like this, a bona fide spiritual master. Heading, caption, a bona fide spiritual master. Come on. I should be ashamed if somebody, So that's not how you do it. Glory of this pure devotee, people will automatically glorify seeing his thing. Not that he has to advertise himself as a great spiritual master. I think where is this? A devotee should never advertise his devotional activities. So humility in many ways. Actually, if we read Saranagati, the songs in the humility section, how one should feel. And when we're chanting Hare Krishna, actually that is the mood. The Saranagati is the mood actually. Saranagati is the surrendering is the key for us to go back to Krishna. And the Saranagati, humility comes first. And all these 6 aspects, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually read those songs, that is the mood in which one has to chant Hare Krishna. If you see all the Vaishnava Acharya songs, especially the instructive songs, the didactic songs, of course there are some songs which are glorifying the pastimes of Krishna and the names of Krishna. All that is good, of course, but also how we should approach Krishna. That we can understand by like Mukundamala Stotra or any other stuti like Kunti Stuti or Pralad Stuti, in Bhagavatam, all Gajendra Stuti, and the songs of the Vaishnava Acharyas. That is the mood. And of course, practically how to apply, we learn in the association of devotees. So, that is Sharanagati. Yeah? Karishya Vachanam Tava. That is the meaning of Karishya Vachanam Tava. To execute the order of the spiritual master, no matter what, without any other considerations. So we will go into more of that. So going back to this verse. So it is samabhehito. That is the qualification of the spiritual master. He will completely enlighten us in spiritual knowledge as much as we can understand. Like Prabhupada, he gave us complete everything he gave in his books and in his instructions, everything. But he did not specifically discuss very elaborately and this thing about Gopi Bhava and all this. Why? Because we are not ready. Prabhupada is qualified very much, but we are not ready. So, but for us there is complete instruction. Of course, Gopi Bhava, Gopi Rasalila, everything is explained. If one is advanced, one can understand everything. So, according to the advancement of the disciple, he will understand the instructions. That's why when one reads Bhagavad Gita over and over again, we will always receive newer and newer instructions. Why? Because it is unlimited in depth actually. But we only can swim according to our capacity. We cannot dive deep because of our incapacity or lack of capacity. But if we make ourselves eligible, then we can. Or the other example is the sky is unlimited, like this verse 118:23. Is this the one? Yeah. Nabha patantya atma samam pattatrinas tatha samam vishnugatim vipaschitaha. O Rishis, who are as powerfully pure as the sun, I shall try to describe to you the transcendental pastimes of Vishnu as far as my knowledge allows. As the birds fly in the sky as far as their capacity allows, so do the learned devotees describe the Lord as far as their realization allows. So, coming back, Samabhito Mahabhagavato Bhagavas Tribhuvana Gurur. Bhagavataha. Here, he is equated, Bhagavan is a word reserved for the Lord, but sometimes great devotees are addressed as Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the possessor of all six opulences, Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashasya, Shriya, Jnana, Vairagyayos, Chaiva, Shannam, Bhaga, Itingana. Vishnu Puran. So the definition by Parashar Muni is that one who is full in all six opulences, wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge and renunciation, he is God. That is the definition of God. Because the devotee possesses Bhagavan and Bhagavan possesses the six opulences, so the devotee also possesses six opulences. Because he possesses the possessor of six opulences. So sometimes Bhagavataha is used for devotees. So that in that sense, Lord Brahma is addressed as Bhagavataha. Tribhuvana Gurur, he is the spiritual master of the three worlds. So that is quite understandable. He is the first living entity and he received it directly from the knowledge directly from Krishna, from the heart. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye. Brahma received in the heart, through the heart. And of course, later on, the Supreme Lord actually appeared before him and spoke to him as well. Now, he is Tribhuvana Gurur, and not only Brahma. Any pure devotee is Tribhuvana Gurur. Ebe Jasha Ghushuk Tribhuvana. Ebe Jasha. Jasha means fame. Ghushuk means known or spread. Tribhuvana, all three worlds. So, every pure devotee is capable to deliver the entire universe. Every single pure devotee. Like Vasudeva Datta, he said, liberate the whole universe and give all their sins to me. And there, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, he is more exalted than Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was wanting to deliver all those people who come to him, but Vasudeva Datta did not even see who was coming to him, who was not. And the entire three worlds, all sinful people, everybody together, he wanted to deliver. So that is Vaishnava. So Tribhuvana Guru. Of course, the Lord is Tribhuvana Guru, and of course, Brahma is also. Anushasanam, this is important word. The root word here, there is a prefix anu, and shasanam. Shasanam means control. Shasadhatu. Prabhupada explained in one lecture. Shasadhatu. Dhatu means the root word of this is shas. Shas means to control. So Shastra is also a control, because the book, for example, a constitution of a country is a Shastra, because it controls the activities of the citizens. The book. And of course the enforcement department is there, the courts, the police and everything. So the law is there, and then the enforcement of the law. So Anushasanam, here it is translated as order, ordered. So this is very important. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Guru more murkha dekhi karilo shasan. Shasan means chastisement. Chastisement is also control. So there is different levels of control for the society, human society especially. First, there is religion, Shastra, religious scriptures, which control the activities. Because Varnashram, there is so much division, and each is given duties and what to do and what not to do. We are controlled by those. And the intelligent will hear them and follow. Some people do not, they want to transgress. Then there is, when one does not follow Shastra, then he has to follow the Astra. Astra means weapons. Caning, or sometimes hang, sometimes shoot. In Middle East they behead the person. Different ways. He has to face the Astra. In fact, weapons are also called Shastra. Shastrapani. Pradandayan. Shastrapani means Nirjitya Parasainyadi Shitim Dharmena Palayet. Parashara Smriti, first chapter, 61st verse. There is this verse which delineates the duties of a Kshatriya. What is that? First one? Let's go there. Kshatriyo hi prajarakshan shastrapani pradandayan nirjitya parasainyadi kshitim dharmena palayet. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus with religious principles he should rule over the world. This is Parashara Smriti. So Shastra, Pani. Pani means hands. Pradandayan for punishment. Shastra means weapons. So Shastra means scripture. Shastra means weapons. Anushasanam means again, so disciple should always be under the control of the spiritual master. And what is the control? The order of the spiritual master. And this is where the duty of the disciple comes. And how Priyavrata actually took it. So we'll go back to the Anushasanam Atmano. So he ordered. So the spiritual master gives an order, and the execution of the order will be the path of perfection for the disciple. Atmano laghutaya avanata. Nata means to bow down. Natibhi. Sankhya purvaka nama gana natibhi. Natibhi means bowing down. So nata, pranata. Laghutaya, he is inferior. He is inferior not only because of blood relation as a grandson, but also because he is a grand disciple of Brahma. Because Narad Muni was the disciple of Brahma, and he is a disciple of Narad Muni. So Laghutaya, always inferior. Dāsa dāsānu dāsa. Shirodharo, his head, bow down with his head. This is pranipata. Pranipatena, pariprashnena sevaya. This is pranipata. Badham iti, yes sir. This is the same as karishye vachanam tava. This is the same as, what is that, 10:14? 10:14, Bhagavad Gita. Sarvametad ritam manye yanmam vadasi Keshava. I accept everything that you have said, Krishna, and I will do everything that you ask me to do. Karishye vachanam tava. These two are the most important, very important lines in Bhagavad Gita pertaining to how a disciple should be. Sarvamaita dhritam manya yanmam vadasi Keshava. Whatever the spiritual master said, we should accept without any opposition and resentment. And karishya vachanam tava, do everything. Badham iti, yes sir. And he said yes sir, not with resentment. He wanted to become a brahmachari. He wanted to be a brahmachari whole life, Naishtik brahmachari. Brahma asked him to marry and rule over the world and guide everybody in Krishna consciousness. So he did not say, okay, I'll do it. Not like that. Yes sir, sabahumanam, with great respect, uvaha, carried out. So in regards to this, there is a verse. एतावत्येव शुश्रूषा कार्या पितरिपुत्रकैः बाढं मित्यनुमन्येत गौरवेण गुरोर्वचः. Sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, yes sir, badham. Here also he said badham, priyavrata, badham iti. Here also badham iti. So, gauravena, due deference. Deference means with great respect. Same. Sabahumanam. And this word bahumanena, I also explain in this. Mahatam bahumanena dīnānām anukampaya maitriya chaivatmatulyeshu yamena niyamena cha. The pure devotee should execute devotional service by giving the greatest respect to the spiritual master and the acharyas. He should be compassionate to the poor and make friendship with persons who are his equals, but all his activities should be executed under regulation and with control of the senses. Greatest respect to Guru and the predecessor acharyas. And here, these two verses are also very important. Guru shushrūshaya bhaktya sarvalabdharpanena cha sangena sadhu bhaktanam ishvararadhanena cha shraddhaya tatkathayam cha kirtanairguna karmanam tatpadamburuhadhyanat tarlingeksharhanadhibhi. One must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Guru shushrūshaya bhaktya. Shushrūshaya means with great respect, serving him. Sarvalabdha arpanena cha. Great respect means not Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, can you give donation? Thank you. No, sir. That is not respect. Or do this. No, actually, I cannot do. But Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, they are Dandavat devotees. Dandavat devotee means he will be Dandavat very nicely. But after that, no following, nothing. No following order, nothing. So this kind of devotion is no. We are talking about Sarvalabdharpanena cha. The test will be whether I have really Dandavat or not. The test will be that Sarvalabdha arpanena cha. Whatever is I have to give to Krishna. Then that Dandavat has meaning. Otherwise, simply namesake, some showpiece Dandavat. Bhaktisiddhanta actually called them Dandavat devotees. They're only good for until Dandavat only. After that. So, Sarvaladharpanena cha Sangena Sadhu Bhaktanam. This is another thing. Ritvik devotees, so called. I have surrendered to Prabhupada. I don't need bhakta. No, Sangena Sadhu Bhaktanam. In the association of saintly persons, Ishvara Aradhanena cha. To worship the Lord. And what does association means? What is the meaning of association? Shraddhaya tat kathayam cha kirtanayar guna karmanam. We have to hear about Krishna Katha. That is association. Then we will be propelled. We will be inspired in devotion. Because inspiration will die down. Today I am inspired. Tomorrow Maya will come and completely wash over the inspiration. The devotees will inspire, Maya will conspire. This is what will happen. So we have to stay alert. So that's why every day, Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Yeah? What is this? I will come back here. 1, 2, 4. No, 2, 8, 4. Shrinvatah Shraddhaya Nityam Granatascha Svacheshtitam Kale Nanati Dirghena Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. Persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna manifested in their hearts within a short time. So, that is Shraddhaya Tat Kathayam cha Kirtanayar Guna Karmanam. We also have to not only participate in Kirtan, but glorify the Lord. Speak about Krishna. That means go out, distribute books. Now is a good chance, 1 month. This is Kirtanayar Guna Karmanam. Actually, it should be every day. That should be our life. Then, Tatpadamburuha Dhyanat. Always thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna. Tallinga Ikshar Hanadibhi. Linga Ikshana means the service of the deity. So these are the activities, sum total of activities of devotee, disciple. And in that verse, there is this purport, there is Rupa Goswami's explanation of how to accept spiritual master. Guru Padashrayas Tasmat Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam Vishrambhena Guroh Seva Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam Sadharma Prichha Bhogadi Tyagaha Krishnasya Hetave. So Guru Padashrayas, after service, taking shelter of Guru, what is the meaning of taking shelter of Guru? Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. We have to take Diksha, initiation. And we have to take teachings. Not that I have taken Diksha, I am liberated now. No need of books, no need of reading. Enough. No. Diksha Adi Shikshanam. Vishrambhena Guru Seva. Guru Seva must be there, and Vishrambhena, with great respect, due deference. Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam. Sadhu Vartma. Vartma means path. Sadhu means the path of the devotees. Devotional service. Anuvartanam. We have to follow in the footsteps of the devotees who are serving the spiritual master, who is serving his predecessor. Dāsa, dāsa, anudāsa. If you see every of our spiritual masters and the predecessor acharyas pranati mantra, if you see Prabhupada's pranati mantra, there is Namaste Saraswate Deve. He is the disciple of Saraswati Thakur. Sometimes you say Namaste Saraswati Devi. Some devotees are chanting Namaste Saraswati Devi. We are not offering obeisances to Saraswati Devi here, but Saraswate Deve. That Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is referring to. Sometimes we don't understand what you're chanting, So, he is the disciple of Saraswati Thakur and Paschatya Desha Taranya. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked him to preach in the Western world, and he preached in the Western world. And one devotee said, no, you should take out this Western, we should put, Sarvaloka Taranya or something like this. Why only Paschatya Desha Taranya? You went west, east, everywhere. But he said, no, keep it as west. Because my spiritual master's order was particularly to go to the west. And yes, more was achieved by the grace of my spiritual master. But my only thing is that I fulfill his order. You see how Prabhupada was so attentive to that is the disciple. So, Prabhupada's status as a bona fide acharya in the Sampradaya is validated by how good of a disciple he was to his spiritual master. And if you see similarly, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there is the mention of Rupanuga. And even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there is Rupanuga Varayate. So always they are following the predecessor acharyas. This is called Bahumanena. Otherwise there is no standing of a person if he has no respect and if he doesn't fulfill the order of his guru and his spiritual predecessor, spiritual masters. There is no standing. So even us, if we at all have to stay in spiritual life, without spiritual master and service to him especially, spiritual master is always there. But our service to him is missing. His instruction is always there to purify us and protect us. Our service is missing. So, Vishrambhena Guroh Seva, Sadhu Vartma, Anuvartanam. Anuvartanam means to follow in the footsteps of Sadhu Vartma. Devotional. Sadharma Pricha, to inquire about Sadharma, real religious principles. Bhogadi Tyagaha, Krishnasya Hetave. Acceptance and rejection of things should be for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishnasya Hetave. Hetu means cause, for the reason of Krishna. That means for Krishna's pleasure, we have to accept or reject things. Bhogadityaga. This is disciple. And of course, so now we have this Priyavrata situation. Was his spiritual master Narad Muni instructed him to remain a brahmachari, and his spiritual master, grand spiritual master, instructed him to become a householder. So Brahma presented how this both can be adjusted, both orders can be followed. It can only be done with devotional service, because only with devotional service one can remain untouched. So the main reason why Narad Muni asked Priyavrata to remain a brahmachari is for him to not be entangled in materialistic life. But when one is Krishna conscious, then even in the midst of the entire material world, he will not be contaminated by the material life. So, only a devotee can remain in this material world and still be sane. Every other person is insane. Yeah. So, Padmapatram Bhasa in Bhagavad Gita 5th chapter 10th verse. So, a devotee should conduct himself like Padmapatram Bhasa, like the lotus leaf, always in water but never wet. This is possible only in Krishna consciousness, otherwise we will become wet. We will become wet. We will become submerged, not just wet. Submerged in Maya. So, that is the adjustment. So, with Krishna consciousness, every apparent contradiction can be harmoniously carried out. Krishna, like Krishna's anger and Krishna's love, although they are two contradictory emotions, but the effect is the same. Both are getting liberated. So that is explained in this, mentioned in this verse. Tirtham chakre nriponam yadajani yadushu svasarit pada shaucham vidvit snigdha swarupam yayurajita para shriryadarthenya yatna Yannāmāmangalaghnam Shrutamathagaditam Yatkrito Gotradharmah Krishnasyaitana Chitram Kshitibharaharanam Kalachakrayudhasya. So especially this part. Vidvit snigdha swarupam yayur. What is that? Vidvit means enemies. Snigdha means loved ones, the devotees. Swarupam yayuhu, attained. They attained the person. So this is the glory of Krishna. His so-called anger and his so-called love, is harmoniously, it's not contradictory. Harmonious. So everything, even service like that, if one order is here like this and another order is like that, it can be harmonized by being Krishna conscious. And by executing the order, everything will be, all the perfection will be there. So, to highlight this, there is this incident in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This was highlighted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in 3 different avatars, 3 different incarnations. He proved this point. What is that? Even if the spiritual master's order is a bit contradictory to to known wisdom, still it has to be carried out, and the adjustment will be there by just carrying out this order of the spiritual master. For example, even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's order preached to the Western world. A sannyasi's duty, one of the rules of sannyasi is you can't cross the ocean because we will get contaminated now. But his spiritual master's orders was to cross the ocean and preach. So it is in apparent contradiction to the Shastric injunction. But just by following the order of the spiritual master, all perfection will be there. So similarly, the spiritual master, the Supreme Lord, in 3 different incarnations, proved this point. So, after hearing this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what? After hearing what? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, my spiritual master always favors me with paternal affection, therefore out of his causeless mercy he has sent you here. So anyway, we will go to this. You see, why did Ishwar Puri keep a servant who comes from a Shudra family? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then, of course, this purport is actually very important. According to Smriti Shastra, which gives directions for the management of the Varnashram institution, a Brahmana cannot accept a disciple from the lower castes. In other words, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra cannot be accepted as a servant. If a spiritual master accepts such a person, he is contaminated. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya therefore asked why Ishwar Puri accepted a servant or disciple born of a Shudra family. In answer to this question, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied that his spiritual master Ishwar Puri was so empowered that he was as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As such, Ishwar Puri was the spiritual master of the whole world. He was not a servant of any mundane rule or regulation. An empowered spiritual master like Ishwar Puri can bestow his mercy upon anyone, irrespective of caste and creed. The conclusion is that an empowered spiritual master is authorized by Krishna and his own Guru, and should therefore be considered as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the verdict of Vishwanath Chakravarti, Shakshad Haritvena. An authorized spiritual master is as good as Hari. So as Hari is free to act as he likes, the empowered spiritual master is also free. As Hari is not subject to mundane rules and regulations, the spiritual master empowered by him is also not subject. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahetar Pravartan. Authorized spiritual master empowered by Krishna can spread the glories of the holy name, for he has the power of attorney from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the meaning of Sakshad Haritvena. So now, Prabhu Kohe, Mahaprabhu said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and my spiritual master Ishwar Puri are completely independent, therefore neither the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead nor that of Ishwar Puri is subject to any Vedic rules and regulations. This is the thing. This order of the spiritual master is not subject to any Vedic rules and regulations. In our ISKCON, they are saying that, how can, you see, there was no such thing as, the spiritual master initiating after he has passed away. So, that has never been the tradition. So, how can, in fact, So they say, how can Prabhupada deviate from the tradition and give something which was never followed before? And they now are quoting another thing that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's list of 13 apasampradayas, one of them is Karta Bhaja. Means, actually, it means that they worship the Guru to the exclusion of God. God is only important because Guru is the same as God. That's why God's form is important, otherwise only Guru. So this is their stupid understanding. So anyway, they say that they initiate the disciples even after their departure. So it is one of the apasampradayas. This is a new argument they came up with. Now how can Bhaktivinoda Thakur define apasampradaya as this, and how can Prabhupada institute this? First of all, there is no mention that they do this initiation after the departure, and even if they do or not do, absolutely doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. If Prabhupada gave the order, that's it. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. We don't need to evaluate Prabhupada's order through some other instruction somewhere. That is not following the predecessor acharyas. We can only follow the predecessor acharyas through Prabhupada. We are not following Prabhupada through the predecessor acharyas. We are not bypassing, going by roundabout like this. That's not how you do it. So, therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that of Ishwar Puri is not subject to any Vedic rules and regulations. Okay? Now, of course, this is another thing. But now, let's come to this part, especially. Now, another thing that happened, এটা বলি গোবিন্দের কইল আলিঙ্গন গোবিন্দ করিল প্রভুর চরণ বন্দন. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Govinda, and Govinda in turn offered his respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. प्रभु कहे भट्टाचार्य करो विचार गुरुर किंकर होय मान्य से आमार. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then continued, speaking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, consider this point, the servant of the spiritual master is always respectable for me. Okay? This Govinda, the servant of Ishwar Puri. তাহার আপন সেবা করাইতে না জুজায় গুরু আজ্ঞা দিয়াছেন কি করে উপায়. As such, it is not befitting that the Guru's servant should engage in my personal service. Yet my spiritual master has given this order. What shall I do? Now this is the Dharma Sankat. There is like a dilemma in the matter of religious principles, execution. So the thing is that if a person is the spiritual master's servant, I should not engage him in my service. I should respect him. But why he has engaged? Why is my spiritual master engaging his servant in my service? So here, a guru's servants or disciples are all god brothers to one another, and as such they should all respect one another as Prabhu or Master. No one should disrespect his god brother. For this reason, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya what to do about Govinda. Govinda was a personal servant of Ishwar Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master. Now Ishwar Puri had ordered Govinda to become Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal servant. So what was to be done? This was the inquiry Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed before Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, an experienced friend. So his spiritual master's order was to accept one of his god brothers as his servant, which is usually not acceptable otherwise. So again, contradictory order. Now, Bhatta kohe, Guru Ragya hoy balavan, Guru Ragya na laghiye Shastra Praman. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, the order of the spiritual master is very strong and cannot be disobeyed. That is the injunction of the Shastras, the revealed scriptures. Now he quotes from the Raghuvamsha. This is the other incarnation of Krishna. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after hearing all these explanations, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will accept Govinda as his servant. So that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's incarnation. Now here, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is quoting another incarnation of Krishna who did the same thing. Sashushruvan matari bhargavena piturniyogat prahritam dvishadvat pratyagruhida graja shasanam tad agya gurunam hi avacharaniya. Again, the word shasanam is coming here. Agraja shasanam. So, what is this? This is from Raghuvamsha, written by Kalidas. Being ordered by his father, Parshuram, this is the other incarnation. Parshuram killed his mother Renuka, just as if she were an enemy. Now, remembering that, another incarnation, Lakshman. When Lakshman, the younger brother of Lord Ramachandra, heard of this, he immediately engaged himself in the service of his elder brother and accepted his orders. The order of the spiritual master must be obeyed without consideration. So here the background was that women should be protected, and what to speak of one's own mother. But Parshuram killed his mother because his father Jamadagni asked him to, without any consideration. But of course, later on, by the benediction of Jamadagni, she came back alive. Now, remembering that instruction, Lakshman, what was happening with Lakshman and Ramachandra? Because Mother Sita was to be banished when she was pregnant, and Ramachandra did not want to go with her because she will, want to come back again. And so she wanted his brothers to, but none of his brothers wanted to. But Lakshman only, Ram said to Lakshman, I know you will follow my instruction. Go and leave her there in that, I think, which ashram? Valmiki ashram is it? So then Lakshman accepted the order by remembering the Parshuram's incident. Yes, women must be protected. Now Mother Sita, especially as a pregnant woman, should be protected. And she is like the mother not only of me but of the whole universe. And honored, not only just, of course, she doesn't need anybody's protection, but, in social etiquette. But also, she is Ramachandra's wife. How can one offend her by separating her from Ramachandra? But still, the order of Ramachandra was to leave her there. So, despite all kinds of contradictory things in Shastra, that about protection of women and, how one should, here we have sometimes a small deity, the Utsav Murti, they put a little bit apart, Radha and Krishna. But it's not to be, it should be together. So if you can't even put that much apart, how can Sita be in one Valmiki ashram and Ram in the palace? So how can? So this is not possible. This is not even respect. Is that how we worship Radharani, keeping her separate from Krishna? No, we can't. So we can't do that. So despite all those considerations, the order of Ramachandra was take her out. And Lakshman, who is another incarnation of Krishna, he also did that. So Parshuram, Lakshman and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed the order of the spiritual master when it is seemingly so-called contradictory to Shastra even. So, even if it is entirely contradictory to everything, but actually if you see, it is not contradictory. This Ritvik system is not contradictory, because what is the definition of Diksha? Divyam jnanam yato dadyat kuryat papasya sankshayam tatha diksheti saprokta deshikais tattvako vidayehi. This is the definition of Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sandarbha. The definition of Diksha. What is that? Divyam jnanam yato dadyat. Diksha means Diksha. Di stands for Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat. So when one receives the Divya transcendental knowledge from the spiritual master, and Sarva Papasya Sankshayam, Ksha, Diksha. Ksha means Kshaya, means a finish, end, a termination. Sankshayam means complete termination, like without possibility of revival. Papasya Sankshayam, to completely rid us of all our past sinful reactions. So that is Diksha. So the spiritual master gives us transcendental knowledge, and by that transcendental knowledge, all our sinful reactions is burnt. And that is explained in Bhagavad Gita here. 434, famous verse, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Okay? Let's try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So, after receiving the spiritual, transcendental knowledge, what is the effect? Yagyatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutanyaseshani drakshasyatmanyatho mayi. Now, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion, for by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. And the effect is here, 437. Yathai-dhamsi samidhognir bhasmasat kurute Arjuna jnanagnihi sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tatha jnanagnihi sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. This is sarva papasya sankshayam. This will happen by divyam jnanam yato dadya sarvas papasya sankshayam. Tatha diksheti sa prokta deshikais tattva kovidaya. This is diksha. So, what principle is being violated? Because we are reading the books of Prabhupada and getting all the divyam jnanam yato dadyat, and by reading more and more, sarva papasya sankshayam, all our, and following, of course, following and taking up the process, all aspects of the process. Not that I can receive knowledge and that is my initiation. No. Follow every aspect of the process. And why did Prabhupada actually institute the formal initiation system, the ceremony? That is also as important. It's like a man and woman just cannot live together. No, we are husband and wife because of our mutual understanding. No. You do it in front of the fire and in front of the relatives, in front of, this is the, and sankalpa. Every yajna there is sankalpa. There is declaration that at this time, at this place, and this person, these both are getting married. Everything there is sankalpa. So it's a declaration, it's a proclamation. It's in public. So a formal ceremony must be there. Some Ritviks are arguing, we don't need any diksha, just it's IRM. IRM is doing that. Krishnakant. They are into this philosophy. It's rubbish. So this has to be followed, diksha. And the main thing is, of course, divyam jnanam and sarva papasya. So that can happen by reading Prabhupada's books at any time. And that was happening even when Prabhupada was around physically. People were reading his books and not even associating with him much, almost nil. Sundagopal Prabhu is a perfect example of that. Never associated personally, but read books and following everything. So that is real connection with spiritual master. So actually there is no principle that is violated, but these people argue that how can Prabhupada follow something which is not in Shastra or in any parampara? No, it is completely in line with parampara. Brahma, they ask where is an example in our parampara that the person in the absence of spiritual master became initiated. Brahma himself, the first one. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavi. He did not see the Lord. He heard tapa. And he heard the whole science from the heart. So the apparent absence of the spiritual master does not decrease the potency of the spiritual master. Then they say, then why can't we go to Rupa Goswami then, read his books and understand? We cannot. We can understand only through Prabhupada's books. Like even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's book, Brahma Samhita. We could never have understood if we did not understand Prabhupada's books. And even Bhaktivinoda Thakur's books. How we would have gotten even access to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's books if not for Prabhupada again. So it's only through Prabhupada we are getting any access to the predecessor acharyas. So how can we jump now and say that Rupa Goswami? As if I first discovered Rupa Goswami's books and then I read and became devotee. Did I? No. Prabhupada is the one who glorified, spread the whole movement, and that's how we came in contact. So we have to go through the current link. So all these arguments we have already presented in our materials, the IS-77, our videos. So our devotees also must know these arguments and what it means to be a disciple. And of course, in our personal life, we have to, instill as much as possible in our capacity, and then we have to increase more and more. But when we are facing these ISKCON devotees, sometimes we have to argue on these principles, on these points. We have to be thorough in our argument. How can, in the purport today, a pure devotee, Mahabhagavat, Priyavrata is described as Mahabhagavat, and Prabhupada qualifies that. What did he say? Mahabhagavat, he will follow the orders of his spiritual master. You see, Priyavrata is described as a Mahabhagavat, a great devotee. The duty of a great devotee is to carry out the order of the spiritual master, or the spiritual master of the spiritual master in the Parampara system. That is the duty of a Mahabhagavat. Mahabhagavat means he will be doing that. Otherwise he cannot become Mahabhagavat. How can he become Mahabhagavat? And this Pankaj Lochan Prabhu, new brahmachari who joined us recently, he was sharing. Of course, we went through these verses recently, I think maybe last year, maybe in these months, last few months. But he shared these purports again in the Krishna inspiration there. Just a second. I just want to point out to one thing. He compiled, I think he was talking to Grace Sundagopal Prabhu, and he was very much inspired. All these actually from 4:28:43 to 4:28:51, very important about how disciples should be. I'll just read out the highlighted parts. He shared a good realization that, serving the spiritual master life after life is a greater perfection than going back to Godhead. Of course, Prabhupada said you go back to Godhead, but we should never think that we are qualified to go back to Godhead. We should be more focused on the following of the order of the spiritual master, not worrying about whether I will go back to Godhead or not. That will automatically happen by grace of Krishna, that's another thing. But that's beside the point. The main point is, Karishya Vachanam Tava is our real thing. A disciple's focus should be Ekeha Kurunandana on the following of the order. What will happen later? Not my business. Prabhupada and Krishna will take care of that. Here, if a disciple gets a bona fide, this is from 4:28:43 purport. If a disciple gets a bona fide spiritual master, simply by satisfying him, he can attain a similar opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Now, in the purport, that's the translation. So, purport. However, the disciple and the spiritual master are never separated because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. Vani. Then, this is 4:28:47. Now, 48, of course, we have quoted this in our IS-77 also. Unfortunately, when the Acharya disappears, rogues and non-devotees take advantage and immediately begin to introduce unauthorized principles in the name of so-called Swamis, Yogis, philanthropists, welfare workers and so on. The Acharya, the authorized representative of Supreme Lord, establishes these principles, but when he disappears, things once again become disordered. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master. Then in 4:28:50, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. It is the duty of the disciples to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciple should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. So it's not that, if I follow Prabhupada's order, then I will be protected, then I will be saved, any danger also, nothing will happen to me. No. Whatever happens to me, I should even prepare to lay down my life for Prabhupada. So that should be the disciple. Not any personal consideration, like gopis, Oh, foot dust, the Krishna's headache, that story. If you go to hell, how come you're not afraid of going to hell? Narad Muni asked, Gopi said, no, it doesn't matter. You take the dust and give it to Krishna first. We don't mind going to hell. That is how disciples should be. Then when one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution, now this is important. When one becomes serious, this is from where? 4:28:51. When one becomes serious to follow the mission, I'll just take it out here. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His resolution to follow the order of the spiritual master is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instruction of the spiritual master. This is technically called Vani Seva. See how nicely he explained. Meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instruction of the spiritual master. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states in his Bhagavad Gita commentary on the verse beginning Vyavasayatmaka Buddhe Ekeha Kurunandana 2.41 that one should serve the words of the spiritual master. The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. Simply by following on that line, one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the seeing of this person, Krishna, will automatically come, but not without following the order of the spiritual master. Yes, the end dish will come, but not without following the recipe. So I should be focused on the recipe, on the process. The result will come by its own if I follow the process perfectly. Remarks that unless Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that unless one is very highly elevated in loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, somehow or other he is in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Lord is in the heart, he can advise a sincere disciple from within. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So, Tesham Satatayuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhiyogam Tam Yena Mamupayanti Te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Vani or Vapuhu. This is the only secret of success in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now again, how much emphasis is added here. Instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan, while at the same time engaging in sense gratification, if one instead sticks to the principle of following the words of the spiritual master, he will see the Supreme Lord without difficulty. And finally, the spiritual master, why his order is so strong, why his order is inviolable. Naivopayantyapachitiam kavayastavesha brahmayushapi kritam riddhamudah smarantah yontar bahistanubhritam ashubham vidhunvan acharya chaitya vapusha swagatim yanakti. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Super Soul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. So we cannot access the Super Soul, Paramatma, like Brahma did. So the spiritual and the Super Soul, being merciful, he comes out as a spiritual master and directly instructs us. Therefore, the order of the spiritual master is so potent. The other example, here Priyavrata said, Badham, yes sir. Arjuna said, Karishya Vachanam Tava. Yudhishthira Maharaj said, no sir. He went to hell for 1 hour. Yudhishthira Maharaj was asked to lie, but he did not. Krishna asked him to lie. So, of course, Yudhishthira Maharaj is a pure devotee, but he did not lie. Ashwathama is dead, but the elephant not your son. That is the truth. Because he refused to tell the lie, then Krishna made the adjustment. Krishna had to adjust. But the word in, of course, that is an example. Actually, Yudhishthira Maharaj is actually very much a devotee, pure devotee. But to show us, malleable, what is that malleable? Snigdheshu, Pandushu, Jagat Pranatim cha Vishnor. Sarathya Parashada Sevana Sakhya Dautya Virasananugamanastavana Pranaman Snigdheshu Pandushu Jagat Pranatim cha Vishnor Bhaktim Karoti Nrupatish Charanaravinde. Maharaj Parikshit heard that out of his causeless mercy, Lord Krishna, Vishnu, who is universally obeyed, Lord Shiva Virinchinutam, bow down. Even Lord Shiva and Brahma bow down to him, who is universally obeyed, rendered all kinds of service to the malleable sons of Pandu by accepting posts ranging from chariot driver to president to messenger, friend, night watchman, etc., according to the will of the Pandavas, obeying them like a servant and offering obeisances like one younger in years. When he heard this, Maharaj Parikshit became overwhelmed with devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord. So, when Yudhishthira Maharaj refused to lie, Krishna adjusted, which should not be the way, but that also shows that Krishna's plan will never be stopped, whether I choose to follow his or not. Nimitta matram bhavasavasacham, just we have to become an instrument. Okay. But the other thing is, we have to be adjusting to the Lord. Anukulyasa sankalpa pratikulasa varjanam, accepting those things which are ordered by Krishna, even though it is my personal inconvenience, or giving up those things for Krishna, even though it is my personal convenience. So we have to be the ones who should be adjusting to the Lord's order and somehow or other execute it. But we should not make the Lord adjust to our convenience or inconvenience. So that is the meaning of malleable. We should be malleable, not make the Lord malleable to our desires. No. So that is what it means to be a disciple. So of course, I am nowhere close myself. I am just saying to purify myself and convince myself to how to be a proper disciple. So, any questions or comments on this point, on this topic? Prabhu, you want to add something? Yeah, we showed that verse in the beginning. Yeah, first one we showed that one. 3:24-13. एतावत्येव शुश्रूषा कार्या पितरिपुत्रकैः बाढम् इत्यनुमन्येत गौरवेण गुरोर्वचः. Actually, just let's see the translation again, because it's always good to reiterate all these points. Sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying yes sir. So we have seen that Parshuram, Lakshman, Ram, this example. The next verse after that is also from Ramayana. Not Adi. Madhya, yes. Sashushruvan. Oh, this is that. Okay, next one. 146. Nirvicharam gurorajñam maya karya mahatmanaha shreyo hyevam bhavatyāścam mama chaiva visheshatah. The order of a great personality like a father or spiritual master must be executed without consideration, because there is good fortune in such an order for both of us. In particular, there is good fortune for me. This is Lord Ram himself said this. So, the word here is nirvicharam. Vichar means to contemplate on. But nirvicharam, without any consideration, without contemplation, whether did my Guru give the right order or not? No. Guru's order is right, whether I am right or not. That's all. That is it. So nirvicharam, whether it is against or whether it is in conjunction with the Vedic injunctions, doesn't matter. But one thing should matter, that it should be for Krishna. There is one case, Bali Maharaj. His Guru ordered, don't give it to Vishnu. Okay, sir. He did not say Badham. He did not say yes, sir. That we cannot do. If the Guru is saying, is not getting us to Krishna, You have to reject that guru. That is, he is not guru actually. That kind of guru should be rejected. But bona fide guru, when he is extending his mercy. Now, just like Ishwar Puri had a Sudra servant, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, his mercy, the mercy of my spiritual master is not, under the Vedic rules and regulations. Similarly, what Prabhupada is doing by Ritvik system, actually, he is extending his mercy. Instead of having us cheated by these useless gurus, less than perfect, far from perfect actually, gurus, he is actually saving, he is extending his mercy for the next 10,000 years. So such mercy in getting us closer to Krishna, we should not throw out away from Krishna. Prabhupada is not saying go away from Krishna. So he is getting us closer to Krishna and he is securing our progress by him being the spiritual master. So it is a great saving grace, and that mercy they are rejecting. So by extent, that mercy is always above the rules and regulations, not that, a guru can do anything he likes above the rules and regulations, don't worship Krishna, don't chant Krishna. No, that is not. That Sukracharya is an example of that. So we have to also be intelligent disciple, not that foolish disciple. But as far as it is within the range of Krishna consciousness, a bona fide spiritual master, nirvicharam. This word is nirvicharam, the before verse, Raghuvamsha verse. This is from Ayodhya Kanda. There is Raghuvamsha verse, you see another avicharaniya, vichara. Vichara means again consideration. Avicharaniya. And there nirvicharam. So that is the point. So any other questions or comments? So how to love him, how to love Prabhupada, to follow the instructions. Actually, that is a common sense. So question online. So even though many persons reading same book according to their advancement only can understand the words? Yes. So one can read the same Bhagavad Gita, same Bhagavatam, same Prabhupada's books, but one's understanding will develop according to one's advancement. In my case, my first reading of Bhagavad Gita, second reading of Bhagavad Gita, third reading of Bhagavad Gita, and now fourth reading of Bhagavad Gita, very, very different, vast difference. But it's not that I have made vast advancement. Just a little bit advancement, there is vast difference of understanding. So all right, I think I will end that here. Yeah. It wasn't necessary in this aspect, because actually, yes, it is to be, one must consult one's spiritual master. Even if one reads some other instructions from other guru, higher predecessor acharya, one must confirm it with his own spiritual master. That is also one of the injunctions. In fact, Narahari Sarkar mentions that in his book. But here, Narad Muni was right there. In his presence only everything happened. And Narad Muni also, if you see the next verse, see next 5.121, Lord Brahma was then worshipped by Manu, who respectfully satisfied him as well as he could. Priyavrata and Narada also looked upon Lord Brahma with no tinges of resentment. Having engaged Priyavrata in accepting his father's request, Lord Brahma returned to his abode and Satyaloka, which is indescribable by the endeavor of mundane mind or words. Okay, so here Manu was certainly very satisfied because that's what he wanted. Priyavrata and Narada were also very satisfied. Although Brahma had forced Priyavrata to accept the management of worldly affairs, thus breaking his vow to remain brahmachari and completely engaged in devotional service, Narada and Priyavrata did not look upon Brahma with resentment. Narada was not at all sorry that he had been frustrated in making Priyavrata a disciple. Both Priyavrata and Narada were exalted personalities who knew how to respect Lord Brahma. Therefore, instead of looking upon Brahma with resentment, they very feelingly offered him the respect. Lord Brahma then returned to his celestial abode known as Satyalok, which is described here as being impeccable and being unapproachable by words. So Narad Muni was, of course, he won't disobey his spiritual master, and in his presence everything was happening. And you can definitely, one can definitely imagine that this Priyavrata must have received a nod from Narad Muni, So,
then in that case, when Kumaras were both, right, they were not disciples of Brahma, that's why they said.
no, no, they were disciples.
Sampradaya is there.
Of course, Sankarshan spoke to them, but in one way, they were the sons, but in that case they did not obey.
Because he is not their acharya, they said.
Not like that, but they were also empowered by renunciation. They were like different devotees are empowered by different strengths. Like Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Sakshat Vairagya Murtaya. So his empowerment, his renunciation, the exhibition of extreme renunciation. Similarly, Raghunath Das Goswami. Whereas others are empowered in different ways. Like Jiva Goswami was in writing. Of course, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami also, but especially Jiva Goswami, because he was so voluminous. So different devotees are empowered in different way, and that is definitely a disobedience in one way, but actually they were very much exalted. And Brahma, therefore, although he was angry, he did not exhibit his anger also. And then, of course, Lord Shiva, Rudra came out of that. In this case, the Lord himself wanted, and Brahma gave that instruction saying that the Lord wants this. Of course, even when the Kumaras were there, his contention was the universe must be populated and everything. Prajapati, he wanted them to become Prajapatis. But they gave up, of course. That is to highlight the importance of, and even to teach others. Because sometimes, even Raghunath Das Goswami's parents wanted him to marry and everything. That's fine, but renunciation, there should be examples of renunciation, you see. So not only the grahasthas must be encouraged, but brahmacharis also must be encouraged. Not that, oh no, okay, become grahastha only. No, everybody must be encouraged. So there are instructions for everybody in different. Like Brahma, so-called, seemingly fell down, but again, that is an instruction. That's why when exalted personalities do such things, then this is how we have to understand these 7 verses. Sri Shukavacha dharma vyatikramo drishta ishvaranam cha sahasam tejiyasam nadoshaya vahane sarvabhujo yatha. The status of powerful controllers is not harmed by any apparently audacious transgression of morality we may see in them, for they are just like fire which devours everything fed into it and remains unpolluted. नैतत् समाचरे जातु मनसापि ह्यनीश्वरः विनश्यत्याचरन् मौढ्यात् यथा रुद्रोब्धिजं विषम्. One who is not a great controller should never imitate the behavior of ruling personalities, even mentally. If out of foolishness an ordinary person does imitate such behavior, he will simply destroy himself, just as a person who is not Rudra would destroy himself if he tried to drink an ocean of poison. Ishvaranam vachah satyam tathaivaacharitam kvachit tesham yat svavacho yuktam buddhimam tat samacharet. The statements of the Lord's empowered servants are always true. Whether their actions are apparently true, pure or not pure, we are nobody to judge. They are doing for certain examples and teaching certain things. The statements of the Lord's empowered servants are always true, and the acts they perform are exemplary when consistent with those statements. Therefore, one who is intelligent should carry out their instructions. Even Indra, he does so many stupid things. But again, he is teaching us what we should not do. But when he offers prayers to Krishna, you can see that he is very, very learned. And even, in the 6th canto, 7th chapter, he disrespects his own spiritual master, but then he regrets. And then he quotes all those verses which are very, very instructive, So, he makes a lot of sense when he comes to his senses. Otherwise, he speaks nonsense. Kushalachariteena isham iha swartho na vidyate viparyayena vanartho nirahankarinam prabho. My dear Prabhu, when these great persons who are free from false ego act piously in this world, they have no selfish motives to fulfill, and even when they act in apparent contradiction to the laws of piety, they are not subject to sinful reactions. Kim utakhila sattvanam tiryan matya divaukasam ishitush cheshitavyanam kushala kushalanvayah. How then could the Lord of all created beings, animals, men and demigods have any connection with the piety and impiety that affect his subject creatures? So of course this is all material activities never entangle the devotees of the Supreme Lord who are fully satisfied by serving the dust of his lotus feet. Nor do material activities entangle those intelligent sages who have freed themselves from the bondage of all fruitive reactions by the power of yoga. So how could there be any question of bondage for the Lord himself, who assumes his transcendental forms according to his own sweet will? Of course, it's about the Ras Leela. He who lives as the overseeing witness, as Paramatma, within the gopis and their husbands, and indeed within all embodied living beings, assumes forms in this world to enjoy transcendental pastimes. Just like Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham dehamashthitah bhajate tadrishi hi krida yah shrutva tatparo bhavet. When the Lord assumes a human-like body to show mercy to his devotees, he engages in such pastimes as will attract those who hear about them to become dedicated to him. Now, if a woman in this world is chaste wife, but if she is chanting Krishna's name, is she being unfaithful to the husband? So the Ras Leela is like that. So how can that be conscious? So I think we'll stop it right there. Yeah. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.